Hi, I'm Cheryl Leach. The problem that we're going to look at in today's video has to do with finding the tangent line to a curve at a given point. And we're also going to talk a little bit about why this might be important. Many times when we're looking at the graph of a function, it's nice to know how that graph changes. To get a sense of this, let's trace the given graph. So reading from the left to the right, I'm just going to trace, and I notice that my graph is increasing, and it continues to increase until I hit this very top point. Now I'm going to stop for a minute and talk about how it's increasing. Okay? I notice that at first I'm increasing very swiftly, but then it kind of slows down a little bit. To get a better idea of this, let's take a look at a couple of examples. Saying that I start right at this point, I'm going to move an arbitrary amount to the right, and then I'll move up. So let's say we'll move over to here, and we'll move the whole way up. Okay? So for this much horizontal movement, I get that much vertical movement. Obviously, the graph is increasing. But let's start at this point and move the same amount to the right and see what happens with the vertical motion. Notice that I'm still increasing, but I've increased by a much smaller amount. In other words, my graph continues to increase, but the rate at which it's increasing has decreased. Right? Well, let's continue. I know I'm increasing, and I continue to increase until I hit this top point. But then what happens? At this juncture, I start to decrease. And I'm decreasing more quickly and more quickly and more quickly as I go. So a similar thing happens on this side. I start to decrease at a slower rate, and then it decreases at a quicker rate as I continue down the graph. Okay. Well, I'd like to figure out how exactly do I describe this rate of change, or how the graph is changing. The way we do this is by looking at a tangent line, and more specifically the slope of a tangent line. Well, what is a tangent line? A tangent line is a line, so it's going to go through a point. And the particular point that I'm going to look at is this point x1, y1. Well, I'd like to find the slope of that line to determine how it's changing at that point. Well, to find the slope, we really usually need 2 points, right? So since I don't have 2 points, I'm going to put an arbitrary point on my graph. Let's say it's right here. And I'm going to look at the line that passes through the given point and this arbitrary point. I'll use a dotted line for that. So there's the line that goes through those 2 points. And I can certainly find the slope of that line. But that's not really describing the rate of change at my point x1, y1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this arbitrary point and move it a little bit closer to the given point. So I'll move it right about to here. And I'll take a look at the line that goes through these 2 points. Well, that's certainly a better approximation of the rate of change at my point x1, y1, but it's still not quite right. So what we really need to do is kind of think of zooming in on that point. And when we zoom in on that point and we continue to look at the slopes of those lines, we end up with a line that looks like that. And that is the tangent line. And the slope of that line will indicate how quickly my graph is changing. Right? So in this particular problem, we're also supposed to find the tangent line at the point x2, y2. So let's try doing that one without a lot of the details that I did for the first point. Okay? So a tangent line has to go through the point x2, y2, through my given point. And I need to think of zooming in on that point and looking at the rate of change. How fast is that graph changing? And this line will best represent that rate of change. And so that's the tangent line at both x1, y1 and at x2, y2. One thing to notice is that the first line is an increasing line, which means it has a positive slope. That makes sense because my graph is increasing on that interval. Okay? The second tangent line, the tangent line that goes through x2, y2, is decreasing, so it will have a negative slope. Okay? And again, that makes sense because on this portion of the graph, my graph is decreasing. Thank you very much. I hope that helped.